What makes Barzee's role especially disturbing is the question of choice. Wanda Barzee, the woman who would stand at his side and enable his every command. If Brian David Mitchell was the self-styled prophet, then Wanda Barzee was his most devoted disciple. But her story isn't simply one of blind loyalty. It's a troubling look at how a woman with her own history of instability, trauma, and religious obsession could transform into an accomplice in one of the most shocking kidnappings in modern America. She had been married multiple times, raising children of her own, but her relationships were marked by dysfunction and abuse. One of her daughters would later testify that Barzee was not just neglectful but violent, a mother who physically beat her children and instilled a climate of fear in her home. She helped him craft his apocalyptic worldview where taking multiple wives, some underage, was not just acceptable but divinely mandated. What makes Barzee's role especially disturbing is the question of choice. Unlike Mitchell, who framed his crimes as the will of God, Barzee had moments when she could have resisted. She could have walked away, she could have protected Elizabeth, but instead she reinforced Mitchell's control. She was the one who prepared Elizabeth for the so-called marriage ceremony, who enforced the rules of silence and submission, and who stood watch when Mitchell carried out his abuse. But to Elizabeth Smart and to much of the public, Barzee was no passive bystander. She was an active participant, a woman who had her own agency and who chose to aid in the destruction of a child's innocence. As investigators and the world would later see, it wasn't just Mitchell's twisted mind that made this crime possible. It was Barzee's complicity, her willingness to validate and enforce his delusions, that turned one man's fantasy into Elizabeth Smart's living nightmare.